River Valley Redneck Channel. So you want to get into deer hunting part 2. This video I'm going to talk about some calls and different techniques to get some deer to come into you, and hopefully that'll help you out in the long run trying to get deer. But I've got a grunt call, I've got a doe bleat, and then I've got a fawn bleat. The first thing I like to do when I get set up in my tree stand waiting on daylight, as soon as daylight starts to break to where I can start seeing 30 yards out, 20, 30 yards out, I hit the grunt call a time or two. And I don't hit it real hard or anything, I just do a just 1 or 2 times. And what that'll do is if you have any bucks in the area, sometimes they will respond to it, sometimes they will start walking towards you just to get an idea of what's in their area. You know, they hear that and they think, hey, there's a new deer here, what's he doing in my area? And then if you've got a doe that's curious, sometimes she'll walk in and she'll come check things out. And also, throughout the morning, I'll hit that a time or two. I've had that bring in buck and doe both. And then later season, you can hit this fawn bleat. It's a cry basically for a baby to its mama. And any doe that has had a baby or has the mother instincts in her, she's usually going to come running. They want to find out what's going on with that baby. I won't shoot a doe if she has babies with her. I won't shoot a deer that has spots on her. That's just me. I won't do it. But all 3 of these I've had pretty good success with. Also, I use a rattle bag or a set of horns, and what it does is it mimics 2 bucks fighting. And if you get a 3rd buck in the mix and he hears that, it's going to rile him up usually, and he will come in wanting to get a piece of the action. I've had a lot of success with that in the past. And I've actually killed a number of good deer with rattle bags and horns. And you want to usually do that during the rut. That's when bucks are out looking for mates, and they get a little, I don't know what you call it, but they hear another buck and they want to make sure that buck doesn't get a doe. They want the doe for themselves. They get territorial big time. And I don't have a rattle bag with me right now, but sometimes, depending on the time of year, usually mid-October, I'll start to get a little heavy with the rattling, and I'll really make it sound like a couple bucks are fighting. And sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. You never know, but I'll do, probably about 30 or 45 seconds of rattling, and then just stop and listen, look around real slowly, and sometimes you'll see a buck coming. And when they come, they usually come in pretty hot and heavy, so you got to be ready. And once you actually get a deer in your crosshairs and you shoot it, the next thing you need to do is, like I said, you need to watch where it was when you shot. Remember the last place you saw it. I usually give it anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour before I'll get down out of my stand in order to go look for that deer, unless I saw that deer fall. If I saw the deer fall and it's not too hot outside, I'll go ahead and stay hunting, because you never know if another deer will show up. And I've actually gotten lucky and killed a couple deer that way, just waiting and seeing if anything shows back up. And you'd be surprised with a gunshot going off or whatever, those deer will sometimes turn around and come right back. I've actually had it happen several times. So don't get discouraged if you miss a deer either, because I've actually had a deer that I've missed, and I've watched him go out 100 yards and just stop, turn around and come back, and got another shot at him and took him down. But once you actually get a deer shot, then it comes to tracking. The best thing that I can tell you for tracking a deer, to keep track of where the deer's going once you start finding blood spots on the ground, is carry a roll of toilet paper with you. I always take a roll of toilet paper into the woods in my tree stand in my bags, and anytime I get down to track a deer, I grab that roll of toilet paper and I shove it in the pocket. And what I do is when I find my first spot of blood, I'll take a piece of toilet paper and I will wrap it around a twig or a branch right there where I found the blood. Then I start looking and I'll find another one. And I'll go ahead and put another piece of toilet paper there. Toilet paper is great because it's biodegradable and you don't have to worry about, leaving stuff in the woods. It will degrade itself. And what that does is you can turn around and look back at your blood trail, and you can get a sense of direction of where that deer is headed. And that'll give you an idea of where your next spot of blood should be. It doesn't always work, but it is very effective. And once you get an idea of where that deer's heading, it gives you a whole lot better chance of finding that deer. Once you do find the deer, the next thing you need to do is you need to gut it and get it in the insides cleaned out as good as you can, washed out. I usually carry a bucket of water or a gallon of water or two with me. That way, when I clean the deer out, I can get the water up in there and I can get it all washed out and cleaned out. Once you get it gutted out and everything, then you get it out of the woods. And then you got to figure out, are you going to process the deer yourself, or are you going to take it to somebody to have it processed for you? Some processors, they will gut your deer for you at an extra expense. But a lot of times when I kill a deer, it's early on in the season and it gets warm in the afternoons. I do not want that deer to sit there with everything in it in the warmth. It will go bad if you leave it too long. So I like to get mine cleaned out as quick as possible. And that way I can get ice. I usually take a bag of ice and throw it up inside the chest cavity. And that'll keep that deer good and cold on the inside. And it'll keep that meat fresh for you. I very rarely ever take my deer to a processor. And the only time I was ever taking mine to the processor is when I wanted ground meat. And I always let them grind it because they had the equipment to grind it and I didn't have a good grinder. Well, I've got a good grinder now, so I pretty much don't take a deer to a processor at all. That way I know the deer that I take into the woods or out of the woods is the deer I'm putting on my table. When I take it to a processor, I always wonder, is this my deer? Because when you go to a processor and you put them in their cooler, there's 30, 40 deer in there. Are you 100% sure you're getting your deer back? I've taken some of the processors that I've often wondered, is this really my deer? Because I should be probably 20 or 30 pounds more of meat than what I got. And I've had that happen a couple times. And that's one reason I invested in a good processor, good grinder. And also, with me doing a lot of the summer sausages, I needed a good grinder in order to grind up my meat for the summer sausage. So I just went ahead and bit the bullet and spent $200 and something on a grinder. And now I do my own deer processing all the way through. And one of the best cuts of meat you'll get off of a deer is the back strap. I never grind my back straps. Those will always go in my smoker. I always take those in salt and pepper and garlic powder and wrap them in bacon, throw them on the smoker for a little while, and get them to about medium rare, a little over. And oh boy, that's the best meat you can get right there. This right here is a backpack that I usually take into the woods with me. I strap it onto my tree stand. That way when I've got my tree stand on my back, I've also got this strapped onto the tree stand with me, and I take it up the tree with me. As you can see, it's got my rattling horns on it. And on the inside, got my toilet paper for tracking and other business. But I usually keep a decently thick pair of gloves in here for the cold mornings. I'll keep a baklava, which is basically a head covering. This one right here, you can have it on camo, or if it's during gun season, you can flip it inside out and you got orange. That way you're legal. And that way if my head gets cold or my face gets cold, I can put that thing on. I always keep an umbrella in here. That way if it starts to rain or mist or anything, I can just strap my umbrella up into the tree. And that way I stay dry. And then it's got a couple places here on the side where you can stick a drink or two in there if you want to have a drink with you. I always do. I always make sure to carry drinks with me because I usually sit in the stand for several hours. I'll get there before daylight, and I probably won't leave until between 11 and 1, sometimes later. And this right here, it pretty much goes everywhere I go hunting. If I'm hunting from the ground that day, I just strap this thing on my back, and I'll usually keep extra loads of ammunition in there. That way if I need it, I've got it. You never know. But I really suggest getting you a backpack to keep some essential items in. That way you can be prepared. Got a couple of horns that are snapped off of that rack right there because I accidentally dropped them out of my tree stand one day. Snapped one of the horns off of it. And if you do hunt out of a tree stand, I've got a rope that is attached to my tree stand that goes to the ground. And I'll climb the tree with my tree stand because it's not a ladder stand, it's a climber. And what I'll do is with my gun is I will strap my gun, the sling of it, through that rope, and I'll leave it on the ground. I'll climb up the tree. Once I get to where I want to be and get comfortable and situated and level, I'll pull the rope up and get my gun. Never climb the tree with your gun. That could be a very bad situation. Always wear a harness when you're in your tree stand too, because you don't want to fall out of a tree stand, because that's painful, I guarantee it. I do not want to fall out of a tree. So definitely wear your safety gear. You know, it may be cumbersome, but it'll save your life. That's my deer cart and my tree stand beside it. But that deer cart right there, you'll strap your deer on that little section right there. I usually bring the head up to that point right there and strap it down. I usually carry 2 or 3 straps with me in order to strap it to the deer cart. And you just take this handle right here and you just pull it right behind you on them wheels. If you'll notice, those wheels, they're angled. It gives it a wider stance at the very bottom so it doesn't want to tip over too much. And it'll also help getting over small logs and things. So if you're out in the woods and you're dragging one out and you got to go over a little bit of logs, it's real helpful. And that handle right there I plan on taking one of my four-wheelers, which I got one over here, and I'm going to make me a hook set up right there to where I can use the four-wheeler to actually bring it out of the woods and up to deer camp on the back of it, kind of like a little trailer for the four-wheeler. You won't be able to go very fast, but it's a lot better than trying to pull one all the way up a hill. So this is my second four-wheeler. It hadn't made it to the woods yet. I'm still working on it. It's a work in progress. But if you're like me, you want to save money, what I do is I'll find four-wheelers that need some work, and I can pick them up fairly cheap. Like this one right here, I only picked up for a couple $100, but it was a basket case. It was burnt to the ground. I replaced the wiring harness. I had to steal a camshaft out of it to get my other four-wheeler going during deer season while this one wasn't running. So I had to get another camshaft and put into this one and got it all going. Had to replace a whole bunch of parts. All the plastic was all melted. The gas tank was melted, and all of that was melted off of it. So I've replaced all of that, got it going again. I can actually drive it around the yard now, and got it running. I still got to do a little work to the brush guard on it because it's all beat up and bent up, and I got to figure that situation out. That way I can get me a winch and everything on here. But all in all, I'm probably into this thing for $350, maybe, somewhere right around in that area. I always keep my eyes open for good deals like that to where I can tinker with it and work on it when I can. But their four-wheelers are really useful when you're out deer hunting, especially getting one in and out of the woods. This is my Centerpoint Patriot 415 crossbow. It's just a Walmart brand crossbow. I don't know if it's branded by Walmart, but it's a Walmart crossbow. And, it gets the job done. It wasn't expensive. I think I paid right at around $200 for it. But it's a great crossbow. It's got an adjustable stock on it. That way you can set it up for different size people, people with long arms or short arms. It's a really good crossbow for the money. And it's quick. It's real fast. It's a real good crossbow to start with if you want to use crossbow. I'm not a professional YouTuber or anything like that. Don't claim to be, don't want to be. I just want to get my experiences out there, and maybe it'll help somebody out, maybe it won't. I hope it does. I just want to kind of share my experiences with you on deer hunting and being outdoors and things like that, and some of the stuff that I do around here, fixing trailers and four-wheelers. I got a deer hoist that I'm going to be building here in the next week or two probably. I got a buddy of mine that wants a deer hoist, so I got to build him one, so I may do a video on that and show you my deer hoist setups. The deer hoist setup is great because it goes in the trailer hitch of your truck, and you can hoist the deer up on it in order to clean it out and do all your stuff to it and get it quartered out, or if you want to take it to a processor, you can hoist it up, spin it around into the bed of the truck, and then let it down. And it just saves your back a whole lot. I'm glad I built several of them. I'm glad I've got them. They're great. But I usually build them a couple times a year when I can. And I got several people that always hit me up and, hey, you building a deer hoist, and I'll usually make them one, sell them one. But they come in real handy. I got to get a 2-inch receiver hitch to put on the four-wheeler. That way I can actually use the deer hoist on the four-wheeler too. And my dad's got one on his, and we've used it on his before up there when we've been hunting, and they work out real good on the four-wheeler. And they're a great thing to have. But yeah, I just wanted to get things out to you, maybe see if I can't help somebody out. And I hope I do. And I hope you guys learn some things, and I hope you really enjoy it. And if you do, just hit the like like and subscribe. Have a good one.